Okay, let's dive right into this invisible, high-stakes war happening inside your body literally right now. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to decode your cellular defense force. Every single second of every day, there is a microscopic battle raging just to keep you alive, and it requires a level of coordination and precision that would put any modern military to shame. By the end of this, you're going to have a completely new appreciation for the absolute powerhouse that is your immune system. Here's our mission briefing for today. We'll start with Section 1 on invaders and chemical weapons. Then, Section 2 covers the 5 antibody classes. Section 3 takes us to the body's military bases. Section 4 is where we'll meet your cellular troops. And finally, Section 5 looks at exactly what happens when the defenses fail. Let's get into it. All right, starting right off with Section 1, invaders and chemical weapons. So let's talk about the enemy, the antigen. This is the actual invader. It isn't just one specific thing. It's basically any foreign entity, whether we're talking about a stray protein, a microscopic organism, or some kind of dangerous toxin that effectively trips your body's alarm system. And once that alarm gets tripped, your body instantly knows it's been breached and scrambles to mount an immune response. And how exactly does your body fight back? Well, it manufactures antibodies. These are highly specific gamma-globulin proteins formed right in your blood plasma. I want you to think of them as custom-built chemical weapons. They're synthesized and deployed for the exact single purpose of neutralizing whatever specific antigen just dared to invade your system. Now, the sheer genius of these weapons is all in their physical design. Every single antibody has 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains. The variable portion acts exactly like a homing missile. It is highly customized to lock onto one specific type of antigen. Meanwhile, the constant portion serves a completely different role. It acts like a communications receptor to call in heavy reinforcements, specifically activating what's known as the complement complex to trigger a rapid inflammatory reaction. It's honestly amazing. Which brings us to Section 2, the 5 antibody classes. So this chemical arsenal is incredibly specialized. First up, you have IgG. This is your most abundant, heavy-hitting defender against bacteria and viruses. It's the absolute star of your secondary immune response. And, amazingly, it's the only one that can cross the placenta to protect newborns. Then you've got IgM, which is your fast responder, rushing in early during that primary response. Looking a bit further down the list, IgE has a super specific, fascinating niche. It's your main defense against helminths, or worm infections. But it's also the main culprit behind your everyday allergies. Finally, IgA acts as the guardian of the gates. It's a secretory antibody sitting right in your mucous membranes, like your respiratory tract, providing a vital initial physical barrier against pathogens you might breathe in or swallow. But hey, every army has its mystery slacker, right? And IgD is exactly that. It's the 5th class of antibody, but its exact purpose in our serum remains an entirely undetermined, totally unsolved medical puzzle. It's kind of wild to think that with all of our modern science and technology, a part of our primary defense system still completely keeps its secrets. Moving on to Section 3, the body's military bases. Your acquired immunity relies on 2 main territories. First, you've got the central lymphoid tissue. That's your thymus and bone marrow. Think of these as the literal boot camps, where your cellular troops are born and trained. But once they're fully mature, they ship out to the peripheral lymphoid tissue. This includes your lymph nodes, spleen, tonsils, gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and your peripheral blood. These are the front lines, the actual garrisons where mature cells live, actively hunt, and respond to any enemy stimuli. All right, let's head into Section 4, meet your cellular troops. When you look at the lymphocytes circulating around in your peripheral blood, there is a massive, overwhelming numerical dominance. T cells make up roughly 80 to 90% of the entire force. B lymphocytes make up the remaining 10 to 20%. And honestly, this ratio tells us a whole lot about exactly how the body prioritizes its standing army in the bloodstream. This overwhelming ratio reveals a really strict division of labor. Your T lymphocytes, named that way because they develop in the thymus, are essentially your hand-to-hand combat troops. They manage cell-mediated immunity. This means they engage directly, either killing recognized hostile cells outright or producing cytokines to regulate the other fighters. On the flip side, B lymphocytes develop in the fetal liver or bone marrow. They don't usually fight hand-to-hand. Instead, they differentiate into plasma cells that act as your chemical weapons factories, pumping out those exact immunoglobulins or antibodies we were talking about earlier.
Now, there is a super quirky piece of medical history here. You'd probably assume the B stands for bone marrow, right? Well, it actually stands for a specialized organ called the bursa of Fabricius, which is found only in birds. That's right, this is where B cells were first discovered to mature in avian species. It just shows how deeply interconnected and beautifully weird biological research can actually be.
To really understand how that B cell factory gears up, we just have to follow a rigorous, multi-step assembly line. Once a mature B lymphocyte gets stimulated by an antigen, it completely transforms. It becomes a lymphoblast, then a plasmablast, and finally a fully functional plasma cell. These plasma cells, which hang out mostly in your lymph nodes, are the ultimate end-stage factories that mass produce and secrete the exact antibodies needed to win the war. Meanwhile, over in the T-cell command structure, strategy is constantly being managed. While those B cells are busy making weapons, your CD4 cells act as the helper T cells, basically the generals coordinating the entire attack and promoting the production of both T and B cells. Then you have your CD8 cells, the suppressor T cells. Their job is absolutely critical too. They suppress T and B cell function to make sure the immune response stops once the battle is actually won. This prevents your army from going dangerously out of control and attacking your own body. But hey, we absolutely cannot forget the macrophages. These large, mononuclear, phagocytic cells are the heavy infantry of your immune system. They usually just sit fixed in the walls of your blood vessels or loose connective tissue. But the second inflammation stimulates them, they become highly mobile. Just look at their battlefield duties. They capture and present antigens to those T-cell generals, they produce interleukin-1 to promote lymphocyte differentiation, and they can literally lyse or physically break apart tumor cells using toxic metabolites and proteolytic enzymes. They are absolute powerhouses in cell-mediated immunity. And then we have the wild cards. Unlike the highly trained T and B cells that need a formal introduction to a specific antigen, natural killer, or NK cells, are the rogue assassins of the immune system. They're large, granular lymphocytes that provide a brutal, immediate first line of defense. They do not require any prior sensitization to start doing their job. They just patrol your body, and the second they encounter certain tumor cells, virus-infected cells, or fungi, they immediately go to work destroying them, no questions asked. Having seen the incredible, intricate coordination of this cellular military, from the precise chemical weapons down to the heavy infantry and the rogue assassins, we really have to ask the critical, inevitable question: what actually happens when things go wrong? That brings us to our final part, Section 5, when the defenses fail. A failure in just one specific branch of this internal army leads to very distinct and terrifying vulnerabilities. For example, if your T cells fail, you become highly susceptible to viral, mycobacterial, and fungal infections, opportunistic invaders like Pneumocystis carinii and Toxoplasma gondii. On the other hand, a deficiency in your B cells, those weapons factories, leaves the door wide open for pyogenic or pus-forming bacterial infections. And it doesn't even stop at infections. A compromised system opens the floodgates for severe malignancies like Kaposi sarcoma and B-cell lymphoma, as well as debilitating systemic issues like autoimmune diseases, where the body mistakenly attacks itself. It really leaves you with a profound realization, doesn't it? As you sit here watching this explainer, there are literally millions of microscopic troops fighting tirelessly inside you right now, neutralizing threats you aren't even aware of. Every breath you take, every meal you eat, every minor scrape you get is a potential battlefield. It definitely makes you wonder, given everything they do for you, what steps can you take to support and protect the delicate balance of your incredible, hidden military today? Keep that in mind and keep learning.